Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Super Tuesday. It's not Super Tuesday. But we do have the State of the Union address tonight, so that's pretty close to a Super Tuesday. Let me remind you that trading is risky, not appropriate for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, is not necessarily indicative of future results, but please stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term, and never risk money you cannot afford to lose. Let's go! Bum, bum, bum. Hey, good morning. Nice to meet you. Hi, my name is Wayne. I am the Chief FX Market Strategist for TradersWay.com. Oh, good coffee, Minions. Good coffee. Minions got it right this morning. Cool. So I've been trading currencies a long time. I'm in love with trading currencies. I love everything about trading currencies. Amazing. Just absolutely amazing. And I'm here to share my experience, good and bad, with you, with the overriding goal of helping you become a successful currency trader sooner than later as well. And like I said yesterday, only will take you maybe 4, 5, 6 years to really get started. That's it. Not a big deal. So please get involved, ask questions. Don't focus on making money, focus on developing skills. Visit tradersway.com, open up a demo account. That's step 1. Step 2 is download my chart templates. In the video description below, there's a link so that you can install my charts onto your new MT4 trading platform. And then 3, blood, sweat, and tears for years. But when you're ready to trade real money, please choose Traders Way as the prime broker to your successful Forex trading business. Consider it paying it back. Bum, 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 bum. So, what's going on this week? Well, today the big thing is ISM. Okay, we got ISM services at 10. And then tonight, the market's going to wonder if Trump says anything unexpected, and if so, what will that be? It's not likely that he says something unexpected, but it could happen. Definitely, he's one of the types of personalities. I know if you go back to George Bush Jr., he would lean to one side, and you just knew he was going to go off script and say something stupid, and the markets would just plummet. So anyways, we'll see what happens. I don't expect much to happen. I think the biggest thing that could happen is he declares a state of emergency in the United States and build a wall. But is that going to affect international trade besides, well, with anybody? No, it shouldn't have. You know, you should almost be, like I took a class on IPE, International Political Economics. And that's really what we are as currency traders. We're somewhere between financiers and economists and international political science majors, right? So, for example, if Trump declares a state of emergency and spends $5 billion on a wall to keep illegal people, it seems to be they're not that concerned about Canadians coming over. But anyways, they're going to build this. If they build this giant wall to keep illegal people or people without visas entering the United States, will that affect global macroeconomics? No. Will that affect international trade? Well, no, because legal trade between the United States and Mexico is fine, and it's not going to affect anything else. So really, at the end of the day, I think currency traders, we may not care. Now, you may, if you happen to be Mexican, you might care. But as far as international political economics, I think we're more worried about Brexit than a wall. By the way, I was trying to explain it to my son. I said, based on the $5 billion, how much is that worth to the federal government? Because they learn that per hour, what the government spends, right? And it comes out to like 2.5 hours or something. Every 2.5 hours, the government spends $5 billion. And I said, so it's 2.5 hours worth of money. Is it worth shutting the government down for 6 weeks? Is it worth all this debate? I mean, they could build the wall and be done before lunch and it's already paid for, you know? So it's like, does it really matter that much? But there we are. All right. So anyways, do you want to do some currency trading? That's the one equalizer that I like. Wake up. Wake up, you gotta make the money. I wish I could turn back time to the good old days where the mama sang us to sleep, 'cause now I'm stressed out. Wake up, you gotta make the money. All right, so I'm trying to find my drawing tool. Yeah, Aussie is just sort of floundering its way up, but I don't think that's that much of a surprise, right? While there's a slowdown in China, it's not going to be helpful to Australia at all. So, but even though there's a slowdown, I think the overriding outlook, at least my overriding outlook, is macroeconomics is still slowly improving. So the Aussie should slowly appreciate. But the nice thing about the Reserve Bank of Australia is if they don't want that, they come out and they tell you. So I used to love Governor Stevens. Do you guys remember Governor Stevens? He was fantastic. He'd come out and say, all right, the Aussie dollar is worth 107. I think it's worth 92. Pew, it just dropped. It was great. It was great. And then it got to like 92 and he's like, nah, I think it's worth 80. It just dropped. Man, was he awesome. Like, when was the last time a central banker would come out and tell you what the price of the currency is? Yeah, well, it wasn't 3,000, but, you know, it would drop 1,000 pips in 3 weeks. Yeah. Guy says he can't see. Oh, is that not working? All right. Well, I'll have to update that. There must be an issue there. It might be locked on the old FX Street one. I'll have to fix that, Guy. But if you're watching on YouTube, you should still be able to see it. It just won't be visible in the recording. But anyways, so here we are. Let's just go through the world here. Remember this grayish blue box? So as long as we're above that, I'm going to remain a bull. And if it drops below that, then I have price action that's creating a lower high, lower low scenario, and I may have to change. So according to our analysis yesterday, I'm still a bull. And that be that. Seems normal, right? Uncle Wayne want you rich. Reach. Suppose it depends on what rich means. Friend of mine just bought the new Bentley SUV. You guys know that one? Some people would say, well, if you bought a $500,000 car, you're rich. Well, he bought the $500,000 car and he put another $500,000 into it. So now it's $1 million. It took a month and a half. It took about 6 weeks for them to make it for him. And it's funny, he talks about his friends as being significantly wealthier than he is, and he's just average or below average even. Right? So it's just funny. It's all relative, right? So he's like, well, I don't have that much money, but, you know, he likes his nice cars, but besides that, he doesn't have like real money like some other people. So it's just funny. It's all relative. And then there's the story. I think Ryan told me the story about the monk who all he has is a small robe around his waist and a little bowl for begging. He's feeling sorry about himself, and then one day he's down by the river and he's scooping water and drinking from his bowl, and he looks across the river and he sees a man scooping water out with his hands because he doesn't have a bowl. Now he feels rich because he has a bowl. So it's all relative, right? Hey, you mind if I smoke? You guys like cigars? It's cool, right? I'll save that one for later. Yeah, that's right. The Burmeister. Yeah. No, let's just say they took the Bentley and stripped it down to the frame and rebuilt it better. Because, you know, your standard Bentleys for, like, losers. So anyways, true story, though. Sure, it's nice. It's an interesting way that people make money, though, right? So, like, one of my neighbors, he's actually my neighbor's neighbor. He owns something like 30 pizza joints. He lives in a giant house, and he's got what are those British cars? The sports cars, the McLarens. He's got like 2 McLarens, and he's got a couple of Porsches, and then he's got his SUV driving car. So he's got these, like, he has about 6 cars, but 2 of them are McLarens because he liked the first one, so he got a second one. And it's just like, what do you do? Pizzas. Now it's high-end pizza and all that kind of stuff, but he sells pizzas. He's a pizza man. He's got 2 McLarens in his garage. It's just funny. You're like, oh, cool. Cool, right? So I'm still in this mode. This is what I did yesterday. And I said, as long as I'm above this cobalt bluish area, I'm going to remain a bull. Well, I'm still a bull. Now, it's dropped, but I expected it to drop. Now, a bear would have sold into that drop. I think, however, or at least my bearish attitude, however, is that this is predominantly up. So this downward move is some bulls, not all bulls, some bulls taking profit, and that they'll re-enter here. And so I'm nothing's changed for me. Okay, so I'm looking at evidence for maintaining posture, and then evidence for a change, because there's a difference between being disciplined and being stubborn. There's a difference between being brave and being stupid, right? So similar kind of fashion. So WTI, I generally want to go up. It went up quickly, then it flattened out, the rate of change, right? Tightened up, and now it's still slowly working its way up. And I think this is a sort of a real tale of sort of how the markets feel right now, where it's up, but it's not up much, okay? All that kind of stuff. So, and notice, like, the stock market, remember how fast it went down, and then it came right back? So we're up, what, 9% for the year already? Something like that? Year to date? I think it points to a lot of what I was telling you, how a lot of this is profit taking and rebalancing and getting out of your worst losing trades and your best winning trades, rebalancing your portfolio, which means people in the new year will just buy it right back because they don't want to be in cash, right? So like if you have a trade that has, let's say, trade that's negative, you might want to get rid of those trades. But what if you had too many? Well, I guess Apple's not going to be a good one. Let's say you had too much Microsoft stock. Now, why would you have too much? You'd say, well, I have a rule in my disclosure document that I give to my clients that no more than 5% of the fund can be invested in any single stock. So Microsoft, let's say, was up 20% last year. As a percentage of the portfolio, it might be up at 6%, because its share relative to the other shares has gone up more than others, and now you didn't buy any more, but it's more of your portfolio. So you say, okay, well, I'm getting rid of my losing trades at the end of the year, but I also have to thin the herd on the Microsoft. And remember, that affects taxes, right? So you take your MSF, I think that's Microsoft, isn't it? MSFT, maybe? I don't know. I don't trade stocks. So maybe this drops from 6 to 5%. So now they have to pay taxes on that. So then you wash that with a losing trade. And now you get out of your loser trade. You don't have to pay taxes, or you pay very little taxes. Your Microsoft is back to 5%. But then you got this 1% decline in cash, plus you got rid of this losing trade, so that's cash. So now you're in cash, and then you look to buy something on the dip. And you may recall the last time we had a drop like this, I told you, pick 3 companies you think are going to be around pretty much forever. Let's say for the next 10 years for sure. The ones that you'd like to buy now but are too expensive. And I said, make a rule. If the stock market drops by at least 10%, buy those 3 stocks. Does anyone remember that from maybe 2 years ago? I was teaching you guys, I told you to treat your trading like you're a portfolio manager, and I asked you to write 6 and 12-month outlooks as if you were a portfolio manager, trade like you had a point of view and a bias. So anyways, hopefully, So all I'm saying is professionals did do that, and they knew exactly what to buy when they got the chance. How about this? Do you think Japan is going to have a major earthquake in one of the major cities in the next 25 years? Tokyo or Osaka or some other big city? Well, BKK, no, I didn't mean like buy it every year. I meant have a contingency plan so if the market drops by 10%, you know what to buy. All right, looks like we got a larger lag than usual in the chat, so I'll just answer my own question. So I do believe in the next 25 years, there'll be some sort of earthquake in Japan. Seems normal, right? Seems like it's a high earthquake area. I'm not a doomsday person, but I think it's pretty likely that a major earthquake will hit Japan in the next 25 years. I've been trading currencies for, 15 or 20 years, and I've seen multiple major earthquakes in Japan. Okay, great. So you take out a piece of paper, something that you're willing to file in a binder. So now you got to go buy a binder. But maybe you get a binder and have a whole bunch of tabs, fill it with paper. In each one of these tabs, you're going to have rules of engagement. Okay? So under one tab, you put Japanese earthquake. Okay? JPYEQ. And then, so that's a section. You open up there, and you should tell yourself in the future what to do if there's an earthquake in Japan. Do you buy the yen? Do you sell the yen? Do you buy the Nikkei, or do you sell the Nikkei? Do you buy the JGB? Do you sell the JGB? What stocks in the Nikkei should you buy? So what Japanese companies should you invest in? And which ones should you sell? So for example, there's one or two major construction companies in Japan that will get all the government orders to clean up after the earthquake. Who are they? Okay. So some of you guys watch Billions. Lots of people ask me, hey, do you watch Billions? Do you watch Billions? I only watch it on the airplane. So I've seen like 3 episodes of one year, 3 episodes of another year. But there was a scene in one of the seasons, and like I said, I've only seen it kind of here and there. And it's the part of the storyline where he's not allowed to trade anymore. And if he trades, he'll lose his trading license forever because he's under investigation. And all of a sudden his phone goes bling, and he looks down, and there's an earthquake somewhere in the world, South America, I think. And he basically he's like, he can't take it anymore because he knows the 6 or 7 things to do right now to make money. Ba-ching, earthquake, and he knows what to do. So if it's like if there was a massive disaster in Chile, you just know that it's going to affect copper prices. You just know that, right? Or if it's in Ecuador, you're like, lithium, oh my God, that's going to crush lithium. I got to sell Tesla stocks. You're like, what? Why would I sell Tesla stocks? There's a massive earthquake in Ecuador. Why am I selling Tesla stocks? Oh, the lithium ion batteries. Oh, wait. You see, like the logic? So you should write all of these things down. Have contingency plans. So one of them is a 10% decline in the S&P 500. What are you going to do? Okay? But once again, I'm just enticing you to not look at Forex as a video game, but look at it like a sophisticated investor and change your game. Hey, Ian, welcome back, buddy. Okay. All right. Wish I could turn back to euro dollar, I guess. All right. Should I be excited about it now? No. Still underwhelmed by this. I mean, like, for example, I could easily just draw the same support here, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm still not really interested. Kiwi yen. Do you like this one? Okay, I bought it down here, remember? Still there. Here's my entry. Do you guys know how to day trade? Here's the buy zone for that day. 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 And you guys remember wealth versus rich? I made all this money and 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 all this money, and I hadn't even get out of bed. Didn't even get out of bed. So who was making me money? My money was making me money. Cool. Thank you, money. I appreciate you, money. I love you, money. Money, you good. I don't know why people say money is evil. I love money. I love driving through, forgotten towns in Georgia, and then you see people have put money into it and fixed up the old town, and there's cool cafes, and even sometimes you even see like sort of modern lofts inside the old, brownstone buildings and stuff. You're like, I love money. Money improves things. Money makes things good. And then jobs are created, but just people feel good. You're like, oh, this is a beautiful town, and I love eating lunch in this old cafe. This feels so good. Versus poverty is so evil to me. It's so scary walking through neighborhoods that are scary. So like yesterday, I was taking my son somewhere, actually an army surplus store. Long story. Anyway, so I'm following the GPS. And it takes me through a bad neighborhood. Like bad. Like really bad. Like so bad. We turn the corner, and we're like, there's a crowd in the parking lot. We're like, what's going down here? And we're driving by. Oh, it's just they set up a basketball hoop in the parking lot in front of a liquor store. And just like a crowd in this really bad neighborhood, it's really run down, and like, it's scary. This is a couple, it was like 20 people playing basketball, but in the parking lot in front of a liquor store, and it's got the bars on it and spray paint, and the building next door is basically burned to the ground. I'm like, oh my God. I like money better than that. So I'm like, look, son, we're in the ghetto. Woohoo! Luckily I didn't take the Bentley, huh? Just amazing. Money's good. Money's good because money makes money. It grows. In this case, it went up, and 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 went up. And didn't have to work harder. I come from a part of the world where hard work is just normal, and it doesn't even mean you make more. It's just life. Life is hard. Life is hard work. Digging ditches and digging holes and pulling stones out of the ground. I once had a job, and I swear to you, this is absolutely 100% true. My job, I was in high school. My job was to walk behind a flatbed trailer being pulled by a tractor. And it was spring, so it was cold, because spring in Canada means, -10. And during the winter, when the ground freezes solid, it spits rocks up out of the ground. You might not know this about farming. So when the temperatures are warming up, there could be a field, let's say as far as you can see, is this guy's field, and rocks have popped up like weeds. They're like weeds. They're rocks. They just pop up. Well, you can't till your field like that. So my job was to walk behind the flatbed, and any boulder I could pick up with two hands, I'd pick up and I'd put on the flatbed. That was my job. That was what this mind was supposed to be doing all day. I remember doing it because I needed the money. Right? Got to keep my clothes on, and I got paid. Cool. But I also remember thinking, I'm getting the hell out of here. Because I want to do more than this with my life. Right? Holy smokes. But that is a true story. Another job I had in the summer now was cutting rebar by hand with a hacksaw. And I do that for hours and hours until I snapped all the blades and stuff. And then I would make cement. I'd mix cement by hand. So this much gravel, this much mix, and all that kind of stuff. Mix the water. And then all this other stuff. Like real hard work. And it's dusty and all this kind of stuff. I'm not scared of hard work. That's what I learned at an early age, how to work hard. But I also realized working hard doesn't make you wealthy. At best, it makes you rich. But even for most people, it doesn't make you rich. So what if you can use your brain and the resources around you and you're a hard worker? Then you can do something like I was teaching you the other day. This is a boring swing trade. We're looking at on daily pivots, but this is a boring weekly swing trade. We do it every week in the swing trading group. It's just, there's nothing to this. It's boring. But the difference is not having to wake up in the morning and come up with a new trade, and then come up with a new trade, and then another one, and then another one. And then, this is one trade and it just keeps making money. And I don't have to hack rebar. I don't have to lift stones. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Sorry, I forgot I was on camera, right? Let's do it again. So it's this one here. Just every day, every day. Makes more money every day. Every day I make more money. Yeah, that was before I became a supermodel. That is true. But that's good for your abs, let me tell you. I should call it the stoner diet. People would buy my book, huh? So that's it. That's money making more money. And then the next day, my money making me more money than it did the day before. And then it made me more money again. Isn't that nice? Okay. Isn't it nice? Let your winners run, guys. Okay, so that was that. So I think we did all of these. Let's move over to the yens. Just, right? Use that big, beautiful brain of yours and your unbelievable work ethic. You're unbelievable? You're unbelievable. What I call a ridiculous, sickening work ethic. Then use your brain. But what else do you need to use if you want to get filthy, stinking rich? I ain't filthy, stinking rich. But if you want to get filthy, stinking rich, use your brain, a ridiculous, sickening work ethic. What's the third ingredient to getting filthy, stinking rich? What's the third ingredient you need in this recipe? Oh, why don't I trail it? Oh, I totally can. But I don't want to get out yet. I have no technical reason to get out, so I don't really need to move it. Okay. All right, so there's quite a bit. Money, yes. So you got to have a big brain, a ridiculous, sickening work ethic, and money. Okay, so for those that come to these webinars, they don't have any money. They don't have a ridiculous, sickening work ethic, but they want to get rich. So what do they bring into the table? A big brain? But then yesterday I was explaining, like, it's not even logical. No, it's not discipline, really. It's not risk control. No, it's money. So there. By the way, there's a huge lag on the chat. So I'm going to stop asking questions. Okay? No, a ridiculous, sickening work ethic, a big brain, and money. So if you have a work ethic and you're smart, okay, then what you need to do is over the next 4 or 5 years, get really, really, really good at trading Forex like a professional trader would, with patience and discipline, with low volatility, with steady returns over changing markets over long periods of time. And then with that, you will be able to attract money, your third required ingredient. Because you'll say, look, I'm smart enough and I am a hard worker. So I'm always around. I'm always on the charts. I'm always doing my homework. I'm always trading plans. I never fail. Therefore, I'm always adjusting to changing market conditions. And I'm never in a situation where I'm over leveraged. Never overexposed to risk. Never. Someone else will add the money for you. The money is the easiest part. So if you right? If you're from a neighborhood where they're playing basketball in the parking lot of a liquor store, that's terrible. I feel bad for you, but that's going to change. So what you need is a laptop, an internet connection, a big brain, and a ridiculous, sickening work ethic. And we'll get you out of there. It's just going to take 5 years. What do you care? Time's cheap anyways, right? You can do it. That's all I'm saying. You got to listen. I know people don't listen to me, so I have to keep saying, you need to listen to me. Cool. So what about this? What's going on here? It's slowly monkeying its way up. Okay. So now you got to do the role reversal. So let's get off this. And the next buy zone's probably somewhere right in there. Breakout, pullback, breakout, pullback, maybe. So put this in perspective out of my own life, going back to that conversation. One winter, I'm pulling rocks out of the ground and putting it on a flatbed. That summer, I'm cutting rebar by hand. There's machines that do it. No, I cut it by hand. And I mixed cement by hand. Outside, it's hot and dusty in Saskatchewan. Okay? 5 years later, I'm on the board of directors of a corporation in New York City on Wall Street. George Soros on the board with me. I'm running an organization of 3,000 people. And I'm a director on the board. Took me 5 years. I changed my world. Did I mention I have a ridiculous, sickening work ethic? And I have at least an average brain. The rest is just what you're going to do with it. And if you got Forex, you need some money to do Forex too. So we did Aussie yen already. No, we did Kiwi yen. All right, so let's move over to Aussie yen. So my entry is here. Okay, again, it's a swing down. Okay, up into here, roll reversal. Very, very straightforward price action. Buy the dip, off we go. Roll reversal, pull back, buy the dip. Next one's probably going to be a roll reversal. Okay. And it's just kind of moving its way up. So I've been in this, looks like about a week. Looks like about it last Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. So I've been in it for a week. What did I buy it at? 75? Where are we? No, not 75. I can't read it. 78? So we're 70. So I'm up 160 pips. Cool. I guess I can lock in. Someone's like, why don't you lock in? All right. Does that make you feel better? I'm going to put it down here anyways. I'll let it run as much as possible. Whatever, you know what I mean? Just cool. Let it run, man. Chris, most of it is focused on the basics of fundamental analysis and technical analysis, and then it goes into how to teach yourself how to trade properly through proper trade journaling, which I don't think is taught in any book. He is a messed up dude, Bobby, but he also broke the Bank of England using the foreign exchange market, and we are foreign exchange traders. Okay. I've worked with lots of very successful people, but you wouldn't have known them, nor were they foreign exchange traders. So in that case, when I say George Soros, he's a very famous foreign exchange trader. So that's why I mentioned that. Okay. And then here's the one I screwed up. But the conversation yesterday was, do I get out or do I let it run, right? So I bought it here, just like the other ones, and it's up here. And I think if not on this chart, on a different chart, we drew something yesterday, right? And I said, as long as we're above this area, I'm going to stay a bull. But then if it drops, and that wasn't the line either. I don't know where we were when we drew it. Must have been a different chart. But I did have a plan where as long as it stays bullish, I want to stay bullish. But as soon as it turns bearish, I want to take profit. So anyways, now that time has gone by, you can see why I do that. And of course, I want it to stay above the 4 hour 21, right? So the out of position swing trade is going to look like that. Where typically a swing trade is purchased down here, it's probably not going to do that. In fact, it's probably not even going to do what I drew. It might do more like this, and then down. So how do you, what we covered yesterday was more of a speech on how do you stay in a winning trade? Because remember, most people can't do that, right? Well, Bobby, you didn't have to retract your thing about George Soros. I'm not saying he's a good person. He's just famous for breaking the Bank of England. Some people will even say he's the one that's actually making North Korea come to the negotiation table. That it's not Trump truly ending sort of the crisis, if you will, in North Korea. It's actually George Soros, is what I'm hearing behind the scenes. You know, a little birdie told me that he's going into North Korea and he's buying their gold bullion because they don't have any cash. They have no hard currency. So if you're going to like smuggle in Rolls Royces and fur coats and jewelry, right, if you happen to be a dictator, where does this stuff come from if you don't have any money? You see what I mean? Like, you might have North Korea money, and that might be good in North Korea, but it's not good in any other country. So if you're going to live in the lap of luxury, where do you get this stuff? Well, you need currency. And so all they have is like gold that they may have mined in North Korea, or wherever they got their gold. I don't know where they got their gold, but they have gold bullion. And George Soros is the type of guy that he'll expose flaws. Now, people will get mad at him because he makes billions of dollars personally, but he's like, hey, that's capitalism. It's not my fault. It's just the tool I use. That's why he broke the Bank of England. He had nothing against the Bank of England, but the Bank of England said, we are going to join the EU, and therefore we have to meet all these rules. And he's like, well, why would you tell everybody that? Because now I know how to like break you. And it's not even him. It's just like, well, the system's so flawed to begin with. And then they come out and tell you they're going to join this flawed system. So the only way I can get people to recognize the flaw is if I take advantage of it, because no one's going to listen to his words, right? So he used leverage and he bet against them. Why? Because they told everyone they were going to do all this stuff. So he's like, well, I'm going to bet against you because now you just told me. And now you can't back away. So I got you, right, behind the 8 ball. And he broke the Bank of England because Bank of England doesn't have leverage. What do you do if you have billions of dollars and 101 leverage? Now you got hundreds of billions of dollars, right? So he had more than they did. And eventually they gave up. And yes, he made billions of dollars in I think in 3 days he made $3 billion, like personal money. So anyways, I believe he's been buying North Korean gold for $35 an ounce. But they needed cash. But his goal isn't to make money. His goal isn't to break the embargo and all that. His goal is for North Korea to run out of gold. Because then when they run out of gold, they have nothing and therefore they're going to have to come to the negotiation table. So the theory is they've run out of gold, so now they want to talk peace. And that's the kind of person he is. But you didn't hear it from me because I can't prove it, but I'll definitely deny it. Just interesting, right? That's all. Sort of like how the ECB negotiated with Greece. Talks went on for years. And then when the ECB pulled money out of the banks, it was less than a weekend. It was solved. And there's that Kiwi. It's fine. I'll let them run. And CAD's fine. Everything's kind of fine there. So everything's just kind of tickety-boo. All right, so we did dollar and yen, gold and oil. Nothing's really changed. We have the State of the Union today. We have ISM at 10. So not a lot going on, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah, he definitely did that too. Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't sure if it was Indonesia or Malaysia, so apparently Indonesia. He absolutely did stuff like that. But again, he's not doing it to the good people of the country. He's doing it because the country itself, the government, was, let's say, outrageously irresponsible. And that creates vulnerabilities. Right on, Big Mac. Listening to these sessions have so improved my trading. Well, make sure you pay it back, guys. Open an account at Trader's Way today. And then also remember, if you want detailed training and stuff, I'm only here an hour a day, right? So there's only so much I can do, and a lot of it I'm just showing you technical analysis, but you're not, I mean, you're learning how to do it, but you're not getting it detailed, right? If you want the details, go to fxbootcamp.com, pay money for a training course, and learn how to swing trade, learn how to day trade, learn price action, learn pivot points. If you don't know these things, you're just not going to succeed, in my humble opinion. That's why I created all those resources. Yes, Stanislaus. Yeah. Well, he's quirky. He's a strange dude. He's not regular or normal. And I'm not saying that he's a role model either. But what I am saying is there is purpose. It's almost like, see, he's a fan of capitalism. Right? So he's gone through sort of the Eastern European lifestyle of the early 1900s, right? Early to mid 1900s. Like, he's seen what socialism can do. So he's not a fan of socialism. He's a fan of capitalism. And in my understanding, like, I haven't read any of his books or anything, but my understanding is he points out the flaws so that they can get fixed and improved, so it saves capitalism from its own weaknesses. So if a country is raping and pillaging its own people for the government, government people's own benefit, he can figure out what will expose them to this, and he'll put the pressure on them, because once you know their vulnerability, you know what their counter move is going to be. So you might as well play the game now. And at the end of the game is he'll be rich. Well, he's already rich. Like once you have 30 billion, another 2 billion, you're like, well, now at 32 billion, like it doesn't even impact your life. People will scream and yell like, oh my God, he just made $2 billion. He's a greedy son of a... No, it didn't make a damn difference to his life. Not even a little bit. His credit rating didn't go up, right? It's not like now he can go buy the thing he wanted to buy. Like it didn't impact him personally whatsoever. But the flaw was exposed and will be fixed. And in his point of view, he made the world a better place. And the compensation for that is $2 billion. But it doesn't impact him. He doesn't sleep better at night. He's just doing his job, saving capitalism from capitalism. So I think that's interesting. That's why I bring him up. But mostly because he's famous. So often when, like, if I was in a job interview and they're like, Wayne, name 2 things unique about you that, would make you stand out in a stack of resumes. I'll say, well, one, I sat on a board of directors with George Soros when I ran a company of 3,000 people when I was 25. And besides that, I docked the space shuttle at the International Space Station for NASA. It was in simulation, but I did do it. All right, cool. Those are usually my 2 go-tos. They're like, what? You worked at NASA? Yeah. And you docked the space shuttle at the International Space Station. Well, I led a crew. There were 7 other people, but I was captain. And we crashed it 8 times in a row into the International Space Station, destroyed everything, and everybody died. But the 9th one, we did it. It's like the castle swamp. They said I was daft to build a castle in a swamp. So anyway, so like, look, so we're going through this, and the long story short is, look, WTI hasn't done much, although now it's kind of waking up. Gold hasn't done much. Most of my pairs have not done anything counter to the positions I'm already in. So it's keep an eye on, like WTI seems the most interesting to keep an eye on. But everything else is sort of just flapping around, doing its thing, making money. I don't need to add to positions. I'm worried about the State of the Union address, all that kind of stuff today. So I may be done a little bit earlier today. Okay. Theo says, what do I think the overall sentiment for CAD yen is? Look, there isn't an overall sentiment for CAD yen. That's not how sentiment works. Walk down the street, ask somebody, how do you feel about CAD yen? They're like, what the hell is CAD yen? Oh, the Canadian dollar versus the Japanese dollar, or Japanese yen. I don't know anything about that. Like, that's not sentiment. Sentiment is walk down the street and say, how do you feel about the housing market? And they'll say, well, I think my house is going up every year. And it's certainly better back in the crisis when we were underwater. I say, oh, so you're relatively positive. Yeah, I guess I am. That's sentiment, right? So those are big questions when it comes down to sentiment. How do you feel about the housing market? How do you feel about your job? Do you feel secure in your job? Yeah, I feel relatively secure. Are you making more money than you did 10 years ago? Yeah, I am making more money. And then, like, do you think there's promotions in your job available to you, or do you think you can get a higher paying job in the next 5 years if you switch companies? And people might say, yeah, actually I do. That's sentiment about the job market. How do you feel about the economy overall? So these are macro questions. It's not micro, CAD versus yen, right? So it's more like, do you feel good about the macro economy? Is it improving or is it getting worse? And you're like, well, I don't feel great about it, but I feel like things are getting better. Good, then CAD yen should slowly go up. Zamo says, what pairs do I like trading? Why? I would say about 90% of my trading has either a dollar on it or a yen on it. Okay? But then each year kind of has a theme. And the theme would be like, sell the hell out of the British pound or something like that. I've had other themes in the past where there was one year where I traded Swiss franc probably 300 or 400% more than regular years, but it was a Swiss franc year. And then I fell in love with trading Swiss franc because before then it was always dollar or always yen or something like that. And then it was a year of the Swiss franc. And all of a sudden, I'm looking for things with Swiss franc. So, like, all of a sudden, I'm doing Euro Swissy and Pound Swissy, right? Kiwi Swissy. I remember one time Kiwi Swissy because I got the huge Kiwi carry, but the Swiss franc was also paying negative interest rates. So they were paying me money to borrow, right? They were paying me to borrow. So then I got paid on the borrowing, and then I invested that all into New Zealand, which then paid me for the investment. So I was getting paid to borrow the money, and then I was getting paid to invest the money. And none of it was my money. Well, 1% of it was my money, right? So I'm like, oh my God. So like those things you just have to be on. But I'm a macro trend trader. If I was asked to define my trading, I say, well, I can do it all. I can scalp, spot, swing, trade, carry. I can do it all, right? I'm a international man of mystery. However, I would be proud to define myself as a macro trend trader. So that's going to get me on a lot of funding pairs. That's going to be dollar pairs, yen pairs, Swiss franc pairs. How do you handle the pressure like that? You know, some people crack in a pressure. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, working at NASA, there was a lot of weird things that they would do. So I was doing flight simulation and virtual reality before you even heard of virtual reality. It is interesting because I would spend a day or 2 or 3 days training. Right? Let's say I'd have a flight helmet on, and I'd have a thing here and a thing here and some buttons there. This controlled my speed, and there's the stick so I can fly, and I've pedals on the floor. So they're like, okay, Wayne, there's a target on your screen. It's going to be moving around. We want you to fly the airplane. And we're going to track how well you follow the target. So the better the higher the points. I'm like, okay, cool. So I do that for 3-4 hours. And then they'll come in and they'll say, all right, to the right, on your right armrest, there's a red button, or sorry, it was a yellow button, a red button, and a blue button. Yellow, red, blue. And I said, so if you're flying and a yellow light flashes up here, press the yellow button. Over here, if the red one comes in, and then blue, okay? And we're going to score your accuracy of pressing the right button at the right time and your accuracy of being able to fly against the target. So anyways, I'm flying against the target. Everything's good. Oh, yellow thing goes. But you see you have to take your eyes off. Yellow, great. And 3-4 minutes later, oh, red button. Then, right, do that for a couple of hours. Everything's good. And then all of a sudden it's coming at you faster. And sometimes 2 colors at once, red and blue. Okay. And now I'm flying and the target's getting all crazy. And then all of a sudden, I'll never forget, all of a sudden strobe lights and alarms. And like, I guess, do I keep flying? Yep, yellow. fly, fly, fly. Right? It's just all this stuff is flashing and screaming, and it just fly. So I got really good at NASA, just controlling my heart rate. I just do it, like, so that there's bright lights flashing and sirens going off. So what? Fly the damn airplane. What's your problem? Yellow, blue, yellow, red. Like, right? What's the big deal? So maybe that helped me prepare for the pressures of being a currency trader? Maybe. But the best thing about NASA, remember, I was very young. In fact, I was still in college. And I was an aviation major, so all this made sense. I was on my way to becoming an astronaut. And NASA said, well, how long is your commute? I'm like, well, I'm down at San Jose State. You're in Mountain View. I'm like, with traffic, it could be 45 minutes. They're like, so like an hour, right? I'm like, well, okay, an hour. Yeah, it'd be about an hour. All right, we will pay you an hour to work, to drive to work, and an hour for you to drive home. So we will pay you 2 hours worth of work the minute you show up. I'm like, really? So I'd work like for 3 hours and get paid for 5 hours. How about that for a government job? I'm like, really? Okay. And it was really good because you'd go to work and I'd have a badge on and I'd have to pass through gates with 2 armed guards and they have to move the gate. And they're carrying, they look like M16s. I don't know. But anyways, but this was a long time ago, so they probably were M16s. And then I get to work. What an interesting place to have worked. Oh, I loved working at NASA. What a killer company. Just because there's so many interesting things going on. Oh, is that right, Mr. Highvolt? Yeah. So you would have designed the flight simulators for me, I think. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, so this was at the Ames Research Center. NASA Ames Research. I just sit out on the tarmac and eat my lunch and stuff and watch all kinds of cool. If you like airplanes, man, oh my God, that was such a cool place. Yeah, Mike says FX pays you to sleep, and that is what I'm trying to teach you, right? So long story short, I'm looking at the market, and I'm in the market. I'm doing good, but I don't see anything new. We have I think the interesting thing is ISM services is coming up. That's the interesting sort of Forex thing or the economic event of the day. But I'm very interested at the State of the Union address, and I think a lot of big institutional investors also are. So like when you meet an institutional investor, do you think they trade every day? Do you think they trade 5 or 6 or 7 times a day? The answer is no. Right? No, not at all. So they do lots of research and they have committee meetings before they pull the trigger and stuff, right? So so I don't feel like today would be a decent day for a lot of big trading because I think an institutional investor would, they would have their committee meeting and they're like, yep, all right, so let's make our adjustment to our portfolio. And then like, well, let's do it tomorrow after the State of the Union address, just in case something goes weird. Yeah, well, Mr. Highvolt says NASA Ames has the biggest motion platform and simulator on the planet. Well, the wind tunnel, right? I mean, you can't miss the wind tunnel. Oh my God! But I was in a building like way far at the back. Very, very interesting stuff going on there, though. Really, really spectacular. Oh, design helicopter flight simulators. That's interesting. I've only flown, I think, 1, maybe 2 helicopter simulators. somehow I remember flying at night over sand dunes. I don't really remember much more about the project, but I remember a helicopter. I remember like doing something like, oh, it was down here, wasn't it? Like, oh, it just goes up. Like, oh, that's easy. And then what? Like, how do you get this horse to go forward? You kick it? Like, oh, you lean the nose forward. Oh, neat. Much different from an airplane. But other than that, I don't remember much. So why don't we gather as a community tomorrow after the State of the Union and see if anything's changed? Maybe before the State of the Union, you might want to lock in some profits or move some stops and stuff. And then ask yourself before the event, if there was a significant move down or up, what would you do and why? So does Trump say something that impacts macroeconomics tomorrow? Or even tonight? Like, what if the dollar gets ripper strong? Do you think it's because of a knee-jerk reaction, or is he closing off all the borders to all international trade? Like, what would make the dollar strong? Generally, it's bringing money home, so that's repatriation. Not remittance, repatriation. Or it's foreigners buying the bond market, or I suppose even the stock market. So foreign investment, let's say, or repatriation by the population. You say, well, what if it overreacts to something he says? Is there an opportunity there? So if the dollar got ripper strong, is there a place you'd sell the dollar? Like, for example, a cluster of pivot points. What if the opposite happened? It got really weak, and like pound dollar rallied up to a weekly R2. Should you take profit? Do you counter trend trade? What do you do? Think about it. Even draw it down. Like, print out the same chart 4 times and draw scenario A. Move that aside. Scenario B. Move that aside. Right? Identifying your key levels of support and resistance, and then just overlap them. See if did anything actually happen at all. See, what you want to do is gain experience so that 1 year from now, actually 51 weeks from now, we'll have another State of the Union address. 51 weeks from now. Okay? And I want you to say, well, I remember last year. And last year did this. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? I want you to have that knowledge and gain that knowledge and experience today. At the very least, you'll have a story to tell a potential investor one day. You say, well, that reminds me back in 2019. Remember that State of the Union address that Trump did between the 2 government shutdowns? Well, this is how the market reacted. Let me tell you. And you tell them. So how do you get a story like that? Well, first of all, you have to be there and you have to have participated. So like I said, you should pick a currency pair, print out 4 different charts, print out the chart 4 different times, and analyze 4 different ways you think the market might react if there's a strong reaction, good or bad, and plan it out. Think about it. Visualize it in your brain. How will it go up to these levels, and how would it go down to those levels? And write it down, like literally think about it, and then write it down with a pen, and then sit there tonight as he's speaking and have your charts out. Is it going to be chart A? Is it going to be chart B, C, or D? Or none of the above? And participate. And then the markets start moving and you're like, oh, it looks like it's going to be number C. Oh, it's going to come down. How's it going to behave on those pivot areas? Then you watch it kind of behaving. And if you participate and interact with what's happening, you will retain the knowledge. And remind yourself you're doing this so you get the experience. You're not doing it to make money. You're doing it so 3, 4, 5 years from now, you can sit down and talk with a potential client how you remember it happening. And since you probably, if that worked for you this year, ever since you'll probably watch key events like that. And you'll say, well, over the last 3 or 4 years, right? I've paid close attention to the State of the Union address in the United States, first under Trump and then under President blah, blah, blah. And let me tell you what I've learned from my observations. Do you think the client will listen to you when you say, well, let me tell you what I learned from my observations of the State of the Union address? Of course, that's why they pay you money, because they don't want to watch the State of the Union address. They want to watch The Bachelor, right? They want to watch Dancing with the Stars. Nobody wants to watch the State of the Union address. They pay you money to watch it for them, and they pay you money to come up with grand ideas on how to keep them rich. So basically what you're saying to them, hey, rich dude, if you pay me money, I will make sure you stay rich and you will never have to watch the State of the Union address ever. And you'll never have to go to listen to a Fed meeting or an ECB meeting or a Bank of England meeting. You'll never have to watch an OPEC meeting. You'll never have to do anything, because that's me. I'm patient, I'm disciplined, and I have a ridiculous work ethic. I will watch your money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'll find it a privilege. So go on, do what you need to do. I got your back, dog. And they'll say, oh, good. Here's a fortune. So why don't you start today? Nothing's likely to happen, except you're going to have a learning experience that will make you a better professional trader. Okay? Tomorrow, you'll be better if you do that. Now, bear in mind, 95% of you won't do it. I would be so scared of being locked into the 95% that don't succeed. I would do it just because I would assume 95% of people listening to this webinar will not do it. And I'd say, well, what if that's the 95% that won't succeed? Because they were not even willing to do that. So I'd be so afraid. I would take my ridiculous, sickening work ethic, and I would just do it. And I'd say, well, this is kind of stupid. And I don't really see how this is going to work. And I'm not so sure if I'm going to manage millions of dollars or billions of dollars one day. But I'm going to do it anyways because I want to succeed. And maybe this is what makes the top 5% the top 5%. That's what I would do if I were me. And that's why I offer you the challenge. And you'll say, well, Wayne, oh, I live in blah, blah land, and that's going to be 2 o'clock in the morning. That's just too much work for me. Yes, I want to get filthy, stinking rich, but I can't make that kind of sacrifice. Wayne, I can't do my swing trading in the middle of Super Bowl? That's crazy. Oh, wait, I did my swing trading in the middle of the Super Bowl. It's not crazy. You want hard? Be a farmer. You want hard? Right? I never forget the Vietnamese guy that ran the Vietnamese restaurant across my building in San Francisco when I was running my startup. And I'm working day and night, weekends, holidays. I worked every single day, 12 hours a day. He worked every single day, probably for 15 hours a day. I remember one day thinking, one day I might be rich. One day I might be famous. One day maybe I'll have a private island or a yacht or a jet plane and I'll live fabulously, and I'll look back in these days and I'll say, oh, I justify all this wealth by how hard I worked. And then here's this guy running the Vietnamese restaurant. He worked just as hard as me, maybe longer. Never a yacht. Never a private island, never any vacation, never any glory, never any fame, right? Just another day to wake up 4:30 in the morning to make sure the bok choy arrives on time. Another day of cleaning the kitchen, another day of just being stuck in the restaurant. And I thought, you know what? I better man up. I better work twice as hard, because I'm lucky to be in a situation where I can work hard and have these other benefits, not just working hard for the rest of my life. I have an opportunity for glory. I have an opportunity to change the world. I have an opportunity to get filthy, stinking rich. I have an opportunity to enjoy what I do. Oh my God, I can't screw this up. And that was way before Forex. Now, Forex, like, oh my God, I cannot screw this up. A $5 trillion a day market, and all I have to do is buy or sell, or not buy or sell. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to put 1,000% into this every day, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And I'm not going to blow this opportunity. So I don't know how you feel about it. Are you going to watch the State of the Union address? Nothing's likely to happen. I'll tell you right now, nothing's likely to happen. So look, if it's too much work, don't worry about it. Just wimp out. Oh, sure, you'll get filthy, stinking rich, but you don't need to do it. It's too hard. I mean, you'll have to think about support and resistance and print out a chart and come up with 4 different scenarios of what might happen and then sit there and watch it. I mean, you can sit there and watch it and have a fabulous glass of wine. You can sit there and watch it, smoke a cigar. You can put on your favorite pair of jammies and make a game out of it. You can post it on the wall. Come on, kids. You should bet. Everyone pick one. A, B, C, or D. Which one's it going to be? Woo, let's have some fun. Let's do it. Or you just not do it, like 95% of people. So let me know if you want to be above average or average. Okay? Anyways, thank you for being on my team. Sorry for the bitch slap. All right? Peace on earth. May the pips be with you. May your profits be above average. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching all the videos. And I will see you tomorrow. And I hope you take my advice and watch the State of the Union address in a way that will make you successful, maybe not today or tomorrow, but 5 years from now, you'll thank me. Because it might be the difference between you trading a $100,000 account or a $10 million account. But you won't know if you don't do it. And that's up to you. See you tomorrow.